On his birthday, Henrik Vanger, the retired CEO of Vanger Industries, played by Christopher Plummer, gets a squished flower in the mail from an unknown sender. Mikael Blomkvist, portrayed by Daniel Craig, co-owner of the magazine Millennium, is surrounded by reporters as he exits a courthouse after losing a libel suit brought against him by unscrupulous billionaire Hans-Erik Wennerström. Blomkvist returns to the office, his reputation ruined and his life savings gone, and tells his co-owner Erica Berger Robin Wright, who is also his sweetheart, that he is retiring. Dirk Frode, Henrik Venger's attorney, interacts with Dragan Armansky Goran Visenjic at the Milton Security headquarters after requesting a background check on Blomkvist. Armansky has arranged for Lisbeth Salander Rooney Mara, his best researcher and computer hacker who is in her 20s and has a lot of tattoos and piercings on her face, to come in and tell him in private what she knows about Blomkvist. Blomkvist gets a call from Frode on Christmas Day, inviting him to the Vanger estate on Hedeby Island in Hedested for a face-to-face discussion with Henrik. As Henrik arrives, he expresses his desire to hire Blomkvist to investigate the murder of his niece, Harriet Vanger, who vanished from the island over 40 years ago. Harriet used to send Henrik a squeezed flower on his birthday every year before she disappeared. Henrik agrees to let Blomkvist conduct his inquiry. Meanwhile, Lisbeth reaches out to her legal guardian, Holger Palmgren, and learns that he has suffered a stroke. Lisbeth is ruled legally incompetent as a child and becomes a ward of the state. Lawyer Nils Bierman takes full control of her finances and becomes her guardian. When her laptop computer is destroyed during an unsuccessful mugging at a nearby metro station, in which she brutally punches her would-be attacker, Lisbeth rushes to Bierman's apartment to acquire funds for a replacement, where he compels her to perform sex acts on him in exchange for access to her money. When she asks for money for food one night, he summons Lisbeth to his apartment, binds her to his bed, and continues to rape and sodomize her, unknowing that she has secretly recorded the incident using a hidden camera on her back. Blomkvist moves into the cottage and continues his study of Harriet, paying special attention to a notebook of Harriet's that contains a list of 5 names and a matching 5-digit number for each of them. Blomkvist learns from Morell, the top investigator who was called in when Harriet first went missing, that they are simply random local phone numbers, but a surprise visit from his daughter produces unpredictable results. Lisbeth exacts her vengeance on Bierman. She returns to his apartment and begs him for rent money. She tasers him when he allows her in. He awakens with his mouth taped shut, spread-eagled on the floor, and nude in his own bedroom. Lisbeth sodomizes him with a huge steel bar and informs him about the rape the night before. She threatens to publish it all on the internet if he does not enable her to control her own finances and erase her legal incompetent status. Before leaving, she tattoos "I am a rapist" pig on his chest and threatens to murder him if he ever invites another woman into his apartment. Blomkvist suspects he is on the trail of a serial killer just as Henrik gets ill, and Blomkvist must now explain this to Frode and Martin Vanger, Harriet's brother and the current CEO of Vanger Industries. Blomkvist needs a research assistant, and Frode suggests Lisbeth. However, Lisbeth goes to a local bar for a drink and is picked up by an apparently extroverted lady named Miranda Wu, whose advances the gratified Lisbeth reacts to and takes LSD with her before returning to Lisbeth's apartment and spending the night together. Blomkvist appears on Lisbeth's doorstep the next morning, asking for her assistance with his case. Lisbeth is initially skeptical of him, but she changes her mind when he reveals that he wants her help in covering a serial killer of women. She concurs. Blomkvist goes for a walk across the island while waiting for Lisbeth to appear and is fired at by an unknown gunman, sending him rushing back to the cottage, where he discovers Lisbeth has arrived and has begun to put up surveillance cameras. Against Blomkvist's initial reluctance, Lisbeth strips naked, and the two of them have love after treating his head wound. While Lisbeth is investigating each of the killings, Blomkvist discovers images from a parade that Harriet witnessed on the day she vanished. implying that she witnessed something frightening. Blomkvist pays a visit to a woman who was also at the parade and discovers an obscured photograph of a strange man standing across the street from Harriet, whom he suspects is the killer. As Lisbeth arrives on the island and gives her information about each death, Lisbeth finds out that Henrik's late nephew, Gottfried Vanger, lived in the same town as all but one of the women who were killed. That woman was killed 2 years after Gottfried was killed in the lake outside his home on the island. Returning to the island, Blomkvist pays a visit to Henrik's brother, Harald Vanger, a recluse who is ostracized by the rest of the family because he is a Nazi. One photo in particular grabs his eye since the subject is dressed in the same school uniform as the strange man from the parade. Blomkvist asks Harald to recognize this individual, and he replies that it is Martin, who was only an adolescent at the time. Returning to the archives, Lisbeth notices Martin in the backdrop of news articles of Gottfried visiting each of the location on business, having followed his father on his journeys. She later realizes that the final victim, killed 2 years after Gottfried's death, attended the same school as Martin, prompting her to conclude that he inherited his father's traits. Blomkvist chooses to break into Martin's house alone to seek information because he can't reach Lisbeth, but Martin notices him. Martin invites Blomkvist in for a drink before leading him, armed with a gun, to a secret cellar where Martin gasses him, leaving him unconscious. Blomkvist is chained and harnessed to an overhead rail system by Martin. Martin nonchalantly tells Blomkvist that he used the basement to kill all of his victims. Lisbeth travels to the cottage she shared with Blomkvist during their investigation and peruses his findings. Martin, she believes, is at the heart of the kid's disappearance. She monitors the CCTV cameras at the property and notices Martin hunting for Blomkvist. When Blomkvist argues that Martin murdered Harriet in the basement, Martin becomes enraged and confesses that he has no knowledge of what happened to Harriet. He puts a plastic bag over Blomkvist's head and prepares to kill him, but he pauses as he is about to remove Blomkvist's pants. Lisbeth emerges behind him and swings a golf club in Martin's face. Martin collapses to the ground and then flees. Lisbeth grabs Martin's revolver and searches the house for him, but he departs in his car. Lisbeth pursues him on her motorcycle, and when he tries to run her off the road, he loses control and crashes. Lisbeth approaches the automobile with a revolver in her hand, but the car bursts into flames, killing Martin. With Martin dead, Blomkvist pays a visit to Harriet's best friend, Anita Vanger Jolie Richardson, in London, but she is unaffected by the news and realizes that she is, in fact, Harriet. When she was a teenager, her father Gottfried would regularly rape her, and Martin ultimately joined in. Harriet thought her horror was over after fighting back one night and drowning her father in the lake, until she saw Martin at the parade, watching her carefully from across the street after leaving school. Harriet resorted to Anita for assistance, who snuck her off the island, and whose identity Harriet adopted after she died some years later. Blomkvist learns that the proof Henrik has against Wennerström is useless because the statute of limitations has passed when Harriet returns to Sweden and back to the island for a sorrowful reunion with Henrik. Nevertheless, Lisbeth discloses that she has gotten into his computer and provides Blomkvist with the necessary evidence, which he uses to persuade Erika Berger to write another piece exposing Wennerström. As Wennerström flees after the charges and proof are made public, Lisbeth travels through Europe disguised and transforms all of his funds into bonds that she takes for herself. Lisbeth intends to profess her love for Blomkvist by gifting him with a motorbike jacket she found in an old photograph on his computer. As Lisbeth reaches his apartment, she witnesses him cheerfully walking away with Erika, prompting her to toss his gift into a dumpster and then ride away on her motorcycle. The movie ends here. I hope you enjoy the recap. Please be sure to like our videos, subscribe to our channel, and turn your bell notifications on for more brilliant film recaps. Thank you.